the big opportunity came with Clairol. I was the first Black model for Clairol at the time when those large billboards, cardboard were in subways and all over. Unheard of for a model of color to be around. And another time to tell you what I went through with that Clairol, preparing the 2 days for that modeling shoot it's still rather painful.
We'll discuss race and how it plays a factor and how we didn't even talk about this topic because we were afraid.
A Black executive perspective.
Hey everyone, Tony Tidbit here. You may notice some minor camera issues in this episode. Despite those challenges, this conversation was way too powerful not to share. Our guest, Lovely Hill, was fantastic, and we wanted to ensure her comfort and full participation. That was our priority. Therefore, we want to thank you for your patience, and we hope you really enjoy this meaningful episode. Check it out right now. We are coming to you live from the new BEP studio for another thought-provoking episode of a Black Executive Perspective podcast, a safe space where we discuss all matters regarding race, culture, and those uncomfortable topics people tend to avoid. I'm your host, Tony Tidbit. So today we have a fantastic show. But before we get started, I want to remind everyone to check out our partners at Code M Magazine, whose mission is to save the Black family by first saving the Black man. Check them out at codemmagazine.com. That is codemmagazine.com. Today, we sit down with Lovely Hill, a woman whose grace opened doors and whose purpose kept them open for others. A pioneer in beauty and education, Lovely broke barriers as one of the first Black women featured in national Pepsi and Clairol campaigns and graced the pages of Jet, Ebony, and Tan magazine under the guidance of Ophelia DeVore and the Grace Del Marco Agency. After modeling, she devoted her life to education, becoming a nationally recognized leader and mentor whose influence still shapes communities today. In addition, she is joined by her grandson, Maxwell Pierce, artist, activist, and Harlem Globetrotter. Today, we're going to celebrate the legacy of elegance, resilience, and the purpose that continues to inspire generations. Lovely Hill, welcome to a Black Executive Perspective podcast, my sister.
So glad to be here. Great to be.
We're glad you're here. All right. And obviously here with Max as well. I mean, this is fantastic. Really appreciate you investing the time to come all the way down here to chat and tell us about your fantastic story. It is so inspiring, and I cannot wait for everyone to hear from it. But before we jump in, tell us a little bit where you're currently residing and a little bit about your family.
Well, my family, I'm an only child, but who was raised by a really extended family. My parents were very young, so that my grandparents really took over, and I was able to be embraced by a large group of people, including the fact that from the time I was in 6th grade, the graduation, 12th grade, I went to school in Detroit and lived with, as an only child, was in heaven because I could go with 6 cousins. And it was just magnificent. It had a lot to do with who I am, how I think of things. It didn't hurt that in Detroit, in Northern High School, we had Jackie Wilson and Kenny Burrell and others of some note. It was a wonderful opportunity. Detroit had a lot to do with the fact that I'm a great New Yorker.
Well, listen, I think we talked about earlier, I grew up in Detroit as well. So we're like, brother and sisters from other misters. So yeah. I'm really excited that you're here. And let's be fair now, too. You have a birthday coming up in a few months, but you just celebrated one back in May. So how old are you now?
93.
So you're 90
Years young.
years young. And so again, we're happy that you're here. So let me ask you this. You know, what we're going to dive into today is a very inspiring story. What I want to ask you is, why did you want to come on a Black Executive Perspective podcast to tell your story?
Well, as an educator, I am impassioned with the fact that stories in history need to be told and people need to know about it. And we cannot deny the fact that we as a people, that our history has been really not fully exposed. So every time I get a chance to answer or speak about what happened with me, I'm delighted to be able to share it. This is living history.
You're so right. I love it. I love it. Well, my sister, you ready to talk about it?
I'm ready.
I see that you are. This is awesome. All right, let's talk about it. So let's back up. 93 years young. Tell us a little bit about the early days. Where were you born? And talk a little bit in terms of how you migrated to Tuckahoe, New York City.
Okay, I was born in Harlem Hospital in New York City and lived there as a child with very young parents. My parents were teenagers, which we used to smile and say, know nothing about birth and no babies. So my grandparents were very influential in my upbringing. I spent some time as a child living in Montserrat, British West Indies, where I was exposed to the English method of education, and it was very strict, but very solid in that you didn't move on to the next standard until you knew exactly what was in the first. So then when I came, my grandparent, again, I'm sorry, my parents didn't know much about birth and no babies because they were pretty much almost babies themselves. They were 17 when they had me. So I grew up under the influence of very, very strong grandparents. And again, they negotiated and navigated my life. And by the time I was about 12, I went, again, only child, going between parents who, one family and the other. My grandmother sent me to visit her sister in Detroit. And she had 6 children. I had arrived at heaven.
Because you had some brothers and sisters to play with, right?
And I grew up with them as siblings. And I stayed in Detroit, coming back and forth to New York, of course, from 6th grade to 12th grade. And then I graduated from Northern High School in Detroit with Jackie Wilson and others. Henry Burrell went to that school. And so funny that when I came to New York and was getting started, I was driving along when we were in high school, Jackie Wilson would come to do the little dances on the weekend. We say, oh, not him again. And then I'm in New York.
So Jackie Wilson was annoying you
yes,
guys.
we were like, oh, not them again. He got this little band, a little ragtag band. And then I'm at Hunter College in New York, and I'm driving along the West Drive, come back, and the announcer said, and the number one song on the hit parade, Lonely Teardrops,
Jackie Wilson.
Jackie Wilson. I almost drove the car into the Hudson River. It was just such a wonderful thing. But then my life in New York was just wonderful, going to Hunter College. And at the time that we went to Hunter College, which was then all girls, it was known as the College for Bright Jewish Girls. So that we of color were saying that we must be geniuses to be here because, and it was a strict curriculum. I'm very proud of the fact. And to remember that back then, we had tuition and books free. And so we got our, Hunter and Columbia, and I will cherish that education forever.
That is awesome. Go ahead, finish your thought.
And it was during that time that I was at home. Oh, I'm a little tidbit. My graduating from Northern High School, one of my classmates and my prom date, Cyrus Cassels, was appointed to West Point. And so the two of us from our class came to New York. And so on weekends, I was dating Cyrus at West Point. And it was one of those weekends that my friend said, well, you know, the Alphas, there's a fraternity, and they're going to elect a queen. I had a very good girlfriend. Her name was, you're not going to believe this, Cinderella.
So wait a minute, Cinderella. That was her real name?
That was her real name, Cinderella Boy.
Okay.
She had Lovely Hill and Cinderella Boy.
BEP is on fire. Our audience is growing fast and the impact is real. Now is the time for your brand to grow with us and reach a highly engaged, influential community with real spending power. Don't miss this moment. Email us today at media@TonyTidbit.com. Let's make it happen and put you and your brand in front of the people that matter.
And Cindy, they said they're going to be electing the Phi Alpha queen, the fraternity queen. And she would like for me to be in her court. So I didn't go to West Point that weekend. I went to the Alpha House, St. Nicholas Avenue, 145th Street, Harlem. And I, interviewed for it so that Cindy could be the Alpha Queen. And then I left that night, went up to West Point, came back, and I was Alpha Queen. And Cindy was in my court. And then there was another person, young woman. Her name was Diane Carroll.
So Diane Carroll
was in
Dynasty. And
she was in my Phi Alpha court.
Wow.
When I won. And she said, I'm going to be a star. And I was like, ha, 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 ha. Oh, okay.
You didn't believe that she was,
okay, though. The next year, she was Alpha Queen. And I have the pic of her I'm putting the crown on her head. And then we were friends forever. Our girls were the same age.
Wow.
And we know where she went.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about where you went. You became Alpha Queen. Obviously, You wasn't looking for that. A friend of yours said, hey, why don't you come and do this? You were dating Cyrus of West Point and didn't go up that weekend. But how did you get into modeling? What? Tell us a little bit about that.
One of the prizes for being Alpha Queen was a scholarship to modeling school. Ophelia DeVore's Grace Del Marco.
Okay.
I want you to know I didn't take I got it, but I didn't take it. Then something, and I'm not quite sure, there was another contest or something I was in, another scholarship to modeling school.
And it was the same
same modeling school. So this time I said, I think I better go just to see what's going on. Well, that was a wonderful endeavor because I got there and it was during the time that the American businesses and corporations were looking for models of color.
Mm-hmm.
But they wanted to accept our color, not too dark and not too light. But also they were not accepting our Africanic features.
And when you say Africanic features, like what do you mean?
Broader nose, thicker lips, all that is so beautiful now and so honored and respected and adored and admired and beautiful.
Right.
At that time, we were trying, the only thing they wanted to do was to use color to indicate that, because they were trying to invigorate and to get the black
dollar.
Yes.
The money.
Come
and spend money with
and
them.
Buy from them. And so I'm certain that what they did was they were sure that they would know that I was of color because I had color, but I was not representing what at that time, and I'm saying at that time in total ignorance, had Africanic features.
Right.
And so, and I'm just very honest about that. I know that that's what was happening.
And
But
what years were these?
this would be late 1950s.
Got it. And were they
Coming, yeah.
were there a lot of black models? Or,
No,
so there was not.
And those who were black models were very light skinned. It was just, easing in. I think Diane Carroll and some of us were the first to come in with some brown in it, but was not, I hate to say, offensive to their Caucasianness.
And was the Grace
Del Marco
agency, was that was that only African American models?
That was Ophelia DeVos.
Yeah, so that was her modeling agency.
That was her modeling agency. And she, and credit to her, because at that time, modeling, and it could be, was a very lucrative area for predators and people who just wanted to use women for all kinds of exploits.
Mm-hmm.
And Ophelia DeVos, Grace Del Marco modeling, was of the highest caliber. She taught us, I can never forget her, the dignity in which she instilled in us to be a symbol of beauty, but not a tramp.
Got you.
And,
In terms of that, here, this was not anything that you were looking to do.
no.
Right? So now you finally, after 2 times, says, okay, I'm going to join this modeling opportunity. How did you feel as you were going through it? Was it something that you were like, I don't know if I want to do this, or did it make you feel like I really want to get involved? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it was not something I was interested in really thinking. It wasn't an aspiration for me. But once I got in, I said, okay, but remember that at that time, models were making $50 an hour in 1950s. My first, I couldn't believe it. I think it was, I did a mom deodorant ad or something. I could not believe the check. But then, as I was modeling for a while and so forth, the big opportunity came with Clairol. I was the first Black model for Clairol at the time when those large billboards, cardboard were in subways and all over. Unheard of for a model of color to be around. And another time to tell you what I went through with that Clairol, preparing the 2 days for that modeling shoot it's still rather painful to me. The response, because what we were doing to straighten our hair was unheard of, even to a big corporation like Clairol. They had no idea what we were doing. So what should have been a 1-day gig wound up being a 3-day gig for me. Also, unbelievably, at $150 a day, unheard of at that time. So in order for them to figure out, they really believed that our hair was straight.
Mm.
They had no idea the hot combs and all of that. And I went through that 3-day session where in the beginning, when they hired me, and so forth, by the end of the 3 days, the owner of Clairol, I forgot his name, was down, and there were 15 to 20 people in that room when they unveiled for the photo, and they clapped, and tears rolled down my eyes. I just cried.
Why did you cry?
Because of what I had to go through for those 2 days. For example, our hair with, the short waves, we call them, they had no idea that we straightened our hair.
Right.
And then they also thought that they were also straightening hair, but they were using creams. We were using the hot combs.
Right.
So by the time And when they washed my hair, I had a head full of hair. We didn't have the kind of dryers that could brush it straight out. So when they put me in the hood to dry it, and it came out like an afro bush, and they went, ah. And I was ready to quit. I leaned down to get my purse, and Shay Landaros was the hairdressers, just stroked me and said, "You're going to stay here, and you're going to tolerate their ignorance, and we're going to show them something." So that starting with the 5 who hired me, and then the 2 days, and then a room of 35 people in there, including Mr. Katz, the owner of Clairol.
Wow.
When they clapped, and that's when the tears come out.
So number one, I'm sitting here just, I can't even.
I haven't had a chance to tell that story.
Oh my God. And you're telling it to me, and I'm just sitting here. I don't even have the words to say, to be honest. I can't imagine, to be fair, all right, being in your shoes, especially being the first to do that and go through that.
Yes.
Was probably devastating emotionally for you. Let me ask you this, in terms of the feedback of your family and friends and people that you didn't know, seeing that you were on a Clairol ad, what was that feeling like?
It was so well received. And again, remember, these were these large posters, cardboard posters all over. We were just, as a people, we were thrilled. And it was probably the beginning of my really feeling wonderful about being a model. I have to admit that I was never I never wanted to be one. I didn't aspire to be it. From the Alpha Scholarship, I fell into it. I fell into a time when they were trying to be sure that we were represented in the market. So I say that with a great deal of pride, but it was painful. I can tell you that I will never forget those 2 days at Clairol.
I can imagine.
I will never forget that, and especially when I had a lot of hair, where you come out and our hairdressers, where you could just brush the hair straight. They just had this hood, and this huge afro came out, and you got a room full of white people going, ooh. Oh, I just, even, I don't know if I've told that story, by the way.
So a day where you thought this is a monumental moment where I'm going to do something that hasn't been done, at least a lot here in the United States, and it's a area of pride almost turned into the most humiliating part of your life at that moment.
Yes, and then at that time, when we were $50 an hour, but if you had a gig that was more than 3 hours, you got $150 for the day. So you can imagine at that time, this black model has 3 days of $150 a day. It was spectacular, unbelievable. I said, I'm rich.
Did other opportunities come after that?
Oh, yes. Then the whole world opened up. Pepsi, Cola, and also cigarettes, Chesterfield, and I never smoked.
We have your grandson, Max, brought a few photos, which we're going to show.
Yes.
On the episode, but there's a photo of you and another gentleman. I think it was Winston cigarettes,
yes,
something of that nature, right?
Winston, Chesterfield, Lucky Strike.
Lucky Strikes.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, here's this lady, Lovely Hill, right, who pretty much laughed at Diana Carroll when she said she was going to be a star.
Yeah, actually, she lost some eyes.
And then the dude that who used to get on you guys' nerves every time he had his music play, all right? And next thing you know, he became a star,
yes,
okay? Now you're a star, okay? Yeah. Now, all of a sudden, you're now in the limelight.
If you like what you hear and want to join us on this journey of making uncomfortable conversations comfortable, please subscribe to a Black Executive Perspective podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe now to stay connected for more episodes that challenge, inspire, and lead the change.
Yes.
Right now, you're, being one of the, one of the models that's being sought after, at least from an African American standpoint.
Yes.
And obviously, you're making a lot of people around you very proud and all that. Was it anyone around in the African American community that wasn't happy for you, or, provided they were like, she thinks she's white or this and that? Was any of that? Or did you have 100%? Because it wasn't a lot of people of color in these type of positions.
No. But you had Ophelia DeVore, who was really highly respected, and the Grace Del Marco models. And then, the beautician who did my hair for Clairol was Shea Landeros. And in Harlem, he was an icon and a gorgeous, gorgeous man. And I cannot, I would be neglectful if I didn't say how much he went through with me. With the, for example, when I came out from under the dryer and had this huge afro and I was getting ready to leave, it was Landeros who stroked my shoulder and said, "You're going to stay here. You're going to tolerate the ignorance. You're going to do this for our people." And so Landeros, again, he was equally as, he was Mr. Harlem, gorgeous man, with Rose Morgan.
How many kids or young girls after that moment decided that they wanted to now be a model?
Yes, how many girls were influenced by, at the modeling agency, by the way. Remember, a modeling agency is just where people go and take classes and stuff, hoping to become famous. So in the Grace Del Marco agency, there were a lot of people, but there were also people like Audrey Smalls and others, and Diane, who became very popular and successful. Audrey was one of my best friends, and she was Lionel Hampton's girlfriend. So, it was another world. The only thing for me is that I think about this at times. I did it, but I was not enthralled. I was not drawn into it. I think just the circumstances of the kind of look I had at that time that was being sought after by the media and the white businesses, that things just came to me in a way, but I never. At that time on the side, I was typing the briefs for Martin Luther King's attorneys in college.
Wow.
So I always had that balance. I was so happy for those like Diane. She knew what she wanted. She did it. And I'm so proud of her, but it was not in my bones.
So even though it wasn't in your bones, you still thrive in it.
Yes.
Okay. And so talk a little bit about how you was on the cover of Jet and Ebony. Tell us a little bit about that.
That was from once you hit one big gig, then the others kind of fall in. And then you get kind of arrogant. Yeah, well, I might get to that. But what
did you say? You're like, I ain't got time for you. But hold on, you just said earlier that, hey, I didn't even want to do this. I didn't think about it. But then eventually you're like, I'll get with them later.
Also in college in those days at $50 an hour or $150 a day, if you had, just think about Clairol, 3 days at $150 a day in the 50s. Oh my goodness. I was on Wall Street. It's fun to think of, and it's so good to see and it's so good to see where we've come. But I also want to put in a plug for Ophelia DeVore,
please,
and the Grace Del Marco models. She kept high standards. She, I remember Sugar Ray Robinson opened a nightclub on, I think it was 7th Avenue or something, with the purple awning out there. I remember her saying, and it was you could, all the young girls, especially those who wanted to be something, would go there. She said to us as models, because she then had the round modeling bags with her name. She said, if I see one of you going into there with that, she said, just turn in your bag because I am not going to have. She kept us at a very high standard.
Yes.
And I so appreciate that. And for me, who didn't care that much about it anyways.
How was, go ahead, I'm sorry, finish your thought.
Go ahead.
No, how was the experience though? So you, obviously the Clairol was a nightmare, right?
Yes.
Even though it turned out well,
Yes.
right? But when you started doing stuff with Jet and Ebony and Tan, what was that experience like?
Yeah, well, that was Johnson Publications. So you're really within the framework of a Black thing. So you didn't have to worry that much about color, but you did have to worry about being taken advantage of as young, quote, beautiful models. I know that, I know of one, Doris's last name, one was a model with me, and we were doing, I think it was a mom advertisement or something, and she was there before me. The Maxwell Blouses was one of the gigs that we had. And again, I was in school. Doris was in the photo before me. She went to do it. But when I was coming in to go up the stairs, she was coming down the stairs. And I said, what happened? Where are you going? She said, at that one, we were supposed to be tied to the ship, the mast of a ship, and the blouse would still, be whatever. And she said, they're really tying us up there. You turned right on the steps and came back down. And I called the agency. I said, I'm not going. And she said, why? And I told her. She said, well, how do you know? I said, I'm not going to know because I'm not going. I'm here to find out. But, of course, we were able to clear that up. But there were especially if you were of color, you had to be very careful that industry was not using you just for nefarious purposes.
Right.
You had to work very hard. But Maxwell, this is it.
So you have a couple other photos here. Why don't we put some of those up? Let's show the first one of you, your first opportunity. I think it was the county one.
Oh, yes. This was.
Yep.
This is the first cover that I was on before. I think this was even before I became a professional model.
What year is that?
All right, so it's about 1950.
Okay, 1950. Okay, awesome.
I would say. And County Q, this is Westchester County. And again, with all of the baggage, the racial baggage of Westchester, this was another iconic beginning.
So tell us why. When you say racial baggage in Westchester.
Well, Westchester County was not known as the comfortable spot for Black families.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would take even Tuckahoe, where I live, and where my grandparents bought their house in 1936. But Tuckahoe was only it had the Tuckahoe Marble Quarry. So the Italians had that. Blacks never worked quarry. They were the coal bearers, the coal carriers, and all that. So that area in Westchester, Tuckahoe, was not known as. There's a place that had Black population, but not any aspirations very
right
for Black people. In fact, no one was even called Black then, or colored or Negro.
Right.
And that's another whole story, even to have us equivocate you could say white, but you couldn't say black.
Right.
And
Right.
it just showed that the whole miasma, the complications of racism and what we as a people. My story is small and large, but I'm just one of millions of incidents where it just took so much for us to get to the comfortable spot we are now, and that's not even always that comfortable.
Correct.
It was better than where it was.
Yes. Yes. Show us that one right there, that picture.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is from my portfolio as a model. And this is one of, was about 8 pages of different, and this is what you had to present to a client if you were trying to spy, or either the agency would send that. And so it shows in that you could be businesslike. Secretaries were very big for blacks. That was an aspirational position
Right.
for a black woman at that time. So you could be secretarial, and heaven forbid, but it was true. You played tennis. You were really upscale then. I mean, this was a biggie. If you
You
were off
played
the
tennis, you-
baseball court or basketball, this was a biggie.
Oh man, this is good.
And this one shows what we call Chinese bags. And that was a very popular look at that time, to have your bangs cut across. Why it was called Chinese bangs, I would not know. Maybe the Chinese wore them. And then to have a slim figure, which they call the 8. You look like the number 8. You're in good shape. So it should go out, in, out.
Right. Figure 8.
Figure 8.
Figure
That's
8.
it.
So how long did you model for?
Oh, from college. Well, yes, college up until I got married and had my daughter. But then the big a magazine cover for Ebony came 4 years after I was married, when my daughter was 4 years old. And that's the Ebony magazine cover with the hats. And the American Millinery Association decided for the first time they were going to feature a black model.
Wow.
And so I was teaching then. I was in Greenberg teaching, and that's another whole. Everything in my life at that time, and for all of us, dealt with color. That if you were going to make any step up, there was relationship with your color. Even becoming a teacher in Greenberg, that was selected because it was one of the first integrated school districts in terms of color and ethnicity and currency and where you lived.
So regardless if you didn't, because you had spoke earlier when we were chatting before we came on, you were like, hey, I wasn't looking to be the first black this, first black that. I was just living my life. And,
That's right.
And if they said I was good enough to do it, I was good. I did it, right?
That's right.
However, what you're saying here is it really didn't matter if you thought that way or not. It's how the world thought that way, right?
Yeah,
In terms of if you wanted for this job and this side, everything was based on color.
Yes. And it had to be brought to your attention. Even as I just want to live my normal life. I never felt inferior, not even superior to anything. I was just always like that. But that was imposed on us. It was what society was looking for. So you were kind of drawn into it, even in teaching. At my time, it came along with school integration. That was the initial issue when I started teaching, which is why Greenberg, so well received at that time.
And it was this Greenberg, New York?
Greenberg, yeah, the school district in Greenberg was known as one of the integrated school districts across the country.
So tell us a little bit about you appearing in Jet. You were there a couple of times. Talk a little bit about that opportunity.
Black women, Negro women at that time, we went through a whole period of time where it was uncomfortable to use black in anything that, in fact, and blacks were even fighting against it because it had such a negative
connotation.
Mm-hmm. But black women through the church were always iconically recognized for hats. Hats were just something you did not come to church without a hat. So it was almost natural that when the Millinery Association, the hats came along, the thing they focused on with black women were hats, and that it was reciprocal. Black women, you did not come to church or anything big without your hat. So I think that's how the Jet and everything picked up the idea of showing us as women in all of our facets wearing hats. And then I'd say with Jet magazine, the one with me in the bathing suit was the other thing. That was the voluptuous presentation of the black woman.
In a bikini.
Yeah, that was accepted before anything related to our brain was accepted.
Tell us how big Jet was at that time, because I would imagine that was a big thing to be on Jet.
Yeah, Jet was it. Jet and Ebony. Jet was smaller than Ebony. But if Johnson Publications, if you made it with Johnson and were featured in anything, you were above the fray. You were and I was so honored, to be. I saw Jet, I think, 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was the feedback from friends, family? Were you well known when you walked the streets, or?
Yeah. Well, Tuckahoe was very small, so everybody would know anywhere. But remember, with Hunter College and the Alumni Association and New York, and then Detroit. Yes, I had, when I think it was Ebony, I was on a cover of one magazine. I would get letters from soldiers overseas. So
that's
it was
awesome.
The glamour girl. Remember that we were not, as a people, our women were not recognized as being glamorous.
No.
We were, look how we did with Aunt Jemima. We were, back in the day, you got to be a good cook and a stern this.
Or they showed heavy-set women.
Yes, very heavy-set.
As more as like mammies and stuff to that nature.
And in charge.
Right. Tough.
All of that tough stuff. So it's become feminine and delicate. They had to work into, as a nation, receiving us as that, as a people.
Let me ask you this, because you make a very good point, right? How much is image and being able to see the positives or the beauties that we have help us in terms of our self-esteem, in terms of us seeing the goodness or what we bring into? Because at the end of the day, if you don't see that, and you only see negative images, and then you see white people being glamorized, all of a sudden you would kind of feel like you didn't rate.
Yeah, that's where my 2 professions join, as a teacher and then as a person in the modeling agency. I was able to combine it. And you're absolutely right, I had a specific focus on the fact of the imagery of Black people. And I worked that I just made sure that every child, and especially those of color, recognize that they have beauty, and that beauty is rated and decided upon by the culture. And so I can't tell you how important that was to me, and in a very cosmetic way. I'm saying cosmetic. It aided me because I was a model. So even in teaching, even parents would say, I come up to a parent and say, "Oh yeah, we heard you were on Jet Magazine, or you were on Ebony Magazine." While we should be talking about their child, but it was because they had made us as a people to be so unattractive,
Correct.
just based on our looks, that the minute we were recognized, we just was so happy to have. I think that's why my modeling was so of such import at that time, because we are people who just kept fighting to be attractive to society.
Well, here's the thing, though, too, right? You can be attractive, but if you don't think you are,
Yes.
then it doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
You can be a beautiful woman,
Yes.
but if everybody's saying that you're ugly, then guess what? You're going
That's
to
right.
think that you're
That's
ugly,
right.
right?
And the self-esteem.
The self-esteem, the beauty, as you look at some of these pictures on our wall here in the studio, the beauty is always there. It's never, we didn't just become beautiful one day. We were always beautiful as a people. But if you don't promote that or you don't see that, then you don't think that you are. And so having people like yourself, and there's other pioneers as well, be out there and have these opportunities, I should say, to showcase so our people could be able to look at and say, wow, there's a Black woman doing something for Clairol.
Yeah.
And there's a Black, oh my God, so I would imagine that made you feel good.
Yes. Oh, I was delighted to be representing that. And I was an anthropology major, so I thought in terms of cultures and beauty standards and all of that. And I also had to weigh what was called, by the way, Negro. We went through a whole thing. When you think about the fact that we had to fight our own people to get ourselves recognized as Black. There were people, there was a time, I'm not Black, I'm Negro. Negro is Black and spelled, please. I mean, when we have discussions like this, it becomes so reflective. I go back and think about what we went through, even internally as Black people, what we had to fight. The period of time when it was only recognized as being great when you were my grandson's color, light skin.
Yeah.
They had churches in D.C. and stuff for light-skinned Blacks.
That's insane. I remember growing up, and because I was dark skinned and being called every name under the book, and Blackula and Tar Baby, and these were by Black kids.
Black kids calling each other that.
Right.
And then when we did start using Black as a word, there were older people saying, "I'm not Black, I'm Negro." And we've just been so undereducated, so underexposed, so beaten down. People, I love modeling and all that, but at the soul of my pride is what I was as an educator. At the soul, the modeling was, physically observable, but what's inside of you, what is under that skin that makes you who you is more important. The other's cosmetic.
Correct. So talk a little bit about how you moved to being an educator and empowered a lot of kids, right, throughout your journey.
I was an educator because at the time, I was at Hunter College on the Bronx campus, the last class, and it was all girls. The next class was the first time Hunter became co-ed, and we went down to 68th Street, Hunter College. At that time, again, it was Hunter College for us before the boys came, was the college for bright Jewish girls. So those of us who are of color, we must be geniuses,
right,
to get down there. The boy. That time, tuition and books free, totally free. And so all of that, the latter was such a hard thing for those of us of color to get in. So once we were at Hunter at that time, we were like, we know we're something, we're smart, and all of that. It's when I start thinking about it, reflecting on it, all of the intricacies, all the little dots in there come back to me that we weren't even realizing face front how difficult it was. It's just what we had to go through. We stuck together, and it's an exciting but painful sometimes.
Yeah.
Remembrance, and also the arrogance. See, I would be untruthful if I said that I experienced a lot of pain. I was always just very arrogant because I thought it was ridiculous. I really did. So I had white friends when no one else even thought about doing that. It didn't matter. If I liked your personality and we could do things together, we did it.
Right.
I'm glad we're having this conversation because it's bringing up and out of me some things that I had just put aside.
Well, I'm glad we're having this conversation as well. One of the things, it's one thing to go through things on your own. It's another to help others come along and educate and mentor them so they hopefully don't go through those things. So talk a little bit about how, you've really helped a lot of young Black students, specifically girls, in terms of taking that next step.
Well, yeah, I was fortunate by teaching. The first teaching assignment I had was in Greenberg Central, and it was recognized for its integration, that they were really a pilot for that. That's why the CBS story with Bill Cosby was going to be, featured from that area. And what you have to learn, the first thing I think that we have to do is make sure that when you're trying to integrate or come together, that you don't bring it in as any portion of that being subservient to the other. If you see integration as, the richer white kids are integrating with poor Black kids, and look how nice what we're doing, that's a failure.
Right.
If you don't see it with the strength of when I started teaching, what I've seen, and he lived in Greenberg too, I think he just passed away. The first class I had where one of the more affluent white kids up there broke something and was crying, and Henry, I'll never forget Henry, from the Black community came up, fixed it, and patted him on the shoulder and said, "It's okay." And the kid wiped his tears away. And that is just, it's just so precious.
Yes.
And it wasn't my trying to orchestrate cohesion. It just happened that way. And I did let them know that no one is better than the other. And no group is smarter than the other.
Right.
And that everybody has something and we work together. I took the first elementary school class, 6th graders, on an overnight to Disney World.
How was that?
Fabulous. There were kids from Greenberg. We had on the airplane, and her name was Regina, I think. Black girl on the plane. She got up and everybody was seeing her, told, "Oh, what a nice class," and so forth. The plane took off and got up there in the middle of everything. She said, "Miss Billups." I said, "What?" "We're over the clouds." You told us, but I didn't believe you. It's that kind of, you could sit down there and you're in the projects and you don't know if you'll ever know what's up over the
That's
clouds.
correct.
I made sure that they had all of the experience. I took the first class to spend the weekend at Fire Island. I took classes to Canada, to the first hands-on museum, black and white and orange and pink and whatever. You just have to believe it. And I think we don't need to preach. We should not spend time saying, yeah, everybody's nice and we're all God's children. No, we're all people. And we have all of the attributes of everybody else. That's it. So you're bright, you're smart, and you're not, and you're bright, and you're dark, and you're light, and you're human.
So tell us, here's the thing. I love that. And, that arrogance, that Taurus in you is very strong. Talk a little bit about, your family. You have a grandson that's here, right? And so let's dive into a little bit of that. Talk about what you see in him, because he's your biggest fan. He has his own art studio. He's an artist, even though he's a Harlem Globetrotter, a basketball player. And he has created some great art of you and his mother and stuff to that nature. So talk a little bit about how you've seen your family, because one of the things you stated and you wanted to give a lot of credit to was the modeling agency that brought you up with elegance.
Yes.
That had you guys, it wasn't going to be trashy. You guys were going to hold yourself to a standard. And if the world wanted you to be trashy, you would walk away and run away.
Right.
Talk a little bit about how those lessons helped you bring your family up as being the matriarch.
Well, yes, matriarch of the family. I have 4 grandchildren. And one is an actor. And then I have my daughter, Gina, my second daughter, had 3 children. Max is the oldest. Max, I had more to do with Max and his education than anything, because I would pick him up after school to do the homework together, to do that. It was a marvelous, marvelous period of time. And we had special seats at Wendy's and other and
You
the
can
place,
look at them.
Yeah, at Wendy's, and then tucked away in Tuckahoe, where he was known, and he would do his homework, and we would work on it together. Once in a while, he would sketch along the side. It never occurred to me that artistic emphasis was inside of him. Our big thing was, and he'll tell you that, get the homework done.
Get those grades, right?
Here you get those grades. Where's your report card? Let me talk to your teachers. Let your teachers talk to me. Let your parents. And I had that relationship with him. I would not tell you that at that young age I said, oh, he is a burgeoning artist. He's going to be wonderful. But there was just that quiet something about him that was not braggadocious, but just very. In fact, in school, up to high school, he was more of an athlete than an artist. And I think he's the one who will be able to tell you when the art just exploded past the athletics. But it was the closeness and the belief. I think my daughters and my grandchildren would tell you that my major thing is that there's no way that race and not even that can make you superior or inferior, but that you have all of the accoutrements in you to be successful or not, and you use it and you care about it. And my main thing is, don't waste your time hurting anyone else. I was very strong on that.
That is awesome.
And
awesome.
he was just Max was an athlete and all that, but just such an affable human being, such grace and calm. I don't think I ever remember hearing him scream or yell or anything. He was just very soft spoken. Didn't look soft spoken on that basketball court. That's for sure. But those were wonderful times with my grandson. And look at him, and I look at him now.
Look at him now, right?
Look at him now.
And more importantly, look at you now. I mean, we want to thank you for coming on and sharing this story. And, you know, I'm, number one, just sitting here listening to you. It's really touched my heart. And if it wasn't for people like you, our people, I mean, we always are in the struggle, but you and the generations before set a foundation for us.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for you, what you guys did and what you endured and how you did stick together and how when all the cards were stacked against you and your generation and the generations before helped us get to where we are today, where we can sit in a podcast room and have a conversation, where we could be able to, live our dreams and be able to walk with dignity and walk with our head high and have people be able to turn the television on or be online or be in a magazine and see people that look like us, right? And we would not have that today if it wasn't for you and our generations prior. So I just want to thank you, lovely Hill. All right. And I'm going to give you a big hug after we get out of here, right? But I want to thank you for coming on the Black Executive Perspective podcast. Not just sharing your story, but sharing your life and living your life that had a mad effect on others and people you don't even know about.
I get letters from students that I've had of all colors too. And I appreciate this moment to be with you and to reminisce and to we got to get our stories out. We've got them locked up inside of us. And it's been a long, hard struggle. And we're not all the way there, but we keep climbing that mountain. We keep seeing ourselves and we keep understanding, by the way, I'll leave with this, that it's wonderful to know who you are, to honor your background, your cultural, your physical background. It's the best thing is to share and join into the culture, into the operations of the human race, and just know that because we're sitting here now, I don't know where the people of this earth are going to be living on another planet.
Right.
So we have to just keep understanding how to cooperate, stay together, do things together. And I appreciate the fact that I was here to just remember some of the things. After a while, the gray hair starts taking over the brain. You say, I can't remember. So help me. Thank you so much for helping me to remember.
Well, no. You don't have to thank me. Look, you're 93 years young, and God, please help me. Okay? So I thank you. So we love you a lot. And again, thank you for being on the Black Executive Perspective podcast. And you sit tight.
And my best to you.
Oh,
and what you're doing.
Oh,
it's very good.
Thank you. So I think it's now time for
Tony's Tidbit.
And so the tidbit today, true elegance isn't found in the spotlight. It's revealed in how you lift others when the lights go out. Because when courage becomes your reflection, barriers fall away. And when you walk with purpose, even history makes room for you. And you heard a lot of that today from our guests, the fabulous, multi-hyphenated, lovely Hill. So we want to remind everyone, don't forget to check out The Next Need to Know by Dr. Nasinga Burton. Dr. Burton talks about the timely and crucial topics that happen on a daily basis that you don't have time to check out. So check out Need to Know by Dr. Nasinga Burton. every Thursday here on the Black Executive Perspective podcast. And don't forget to see our roundtable, Pull Up, Speak Up, where bold, provocative voices dive into the most unwavering topics. It's a revolution. You definitely don't want to miss it here on the Black Executive Perspective podcast. Pull Up, Speak Up. Check out our roundtable every week. And so if this is your first time following the Black Executive Perspective podcast, our goal is to eliminate all forms of discrimination. And we're asking everyone to incorporate our call to action, which we call LESS, L-E-S-S. L stands for learn. We want everyone to learn about different racial and cultural nuances, right? Because the more that you can learn about other individuals, it's going to enlighten you. Then after you learn, you have the letter E, that stands for empathy. Now, since you've learned, you can be more empathetic to your friends and colleagues because now you know what they go through. And then the first S stands for share. You want to share what you've learned to others so they can become enlightened. And then the final S is stop. You want to stop discrimination as it walks in your path. So it's as simple as if you're at the Sunday dinner table with Auntie Jenny and Uncle Joe and they say something that's inappropriate, you say, Auntie Jenny, Uncle Joe, we don't believe that. We don't say that. And you stop it right there. So if everyone can incorporate LESS, L-E-S-S, we'll build a more fair, more understanding world. And we all will see the change that we want to see, because less will become more. Don't forget to check out the Black Executive Perspective podcast here on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on our social channels of X, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at a Black Exec. For our fabulous guest, the multi-hyphenated Lovely Hill, I'm Tony Tidbit. We talked about it. We learned about it. Oh, man, I'm going to hug her about it, right? We love you, and guess what? We're out.
A Black Executive Perspective.